Hello. In this video, I would like to discuss why are people mistreated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the question, and then I am going to try to answer that question. So why do humans mistreat other humans? Or it can be asked in another way. Why do people mistreat other people? If you want to throw yourself into the question, you can ask it and say, why do other people mistreat me? And if you want to be more altruistic, you can say, why did I mistreat that person? Right? So it's many different ways to ask that question, but the gist that we're trying to get to is, why do people mistreat other people? First off, I like to say that I don't think anyone should be mistreated. I don't think that anyone should be treated or mistreated, that is, because of their identity, their birthplace, country of origin, race, religion, gender, sexuality. I don't believe anybody should be mistreated because they differ than me in any kind of way, for as how they were born, right, or their culture. I don't think that. However, we live in a world where many people say that, yet people, as humans, we do the very thing that we say that we're against. So I think people have been trying to answer the question, why do people mistreat other people, since the beginning of time. Some theorists suggest that it's an in-group and an out-group situation where humans develop to have a clan, a tribe, and everyone that's a part of this group is in, and anyone else is considered out. They're not a part of us. So thousands of years ago, when humans were hunter-gatherers and they were foraging, trying to survive, being part of a group was a means of survival. If a person was excommunicated or abandoned, the likelihood of their survival decreased immensely because the group was a form of protection. So some theories suggest that this mentality that we got from our ancestors, and I would also like to point out that many scientists say that modern humans, the way that we currently exist in our physiological structure, have existed the last 20,000 years, right? So I'm not talking about like some cavemen or something like that. I'm talking about us in the current form. Why do we mistreat one another? Okay. So some theories suggest that it's because you have in-group, out-group. If you're not a part of our group, you're eligible to be mistreated. And then that progressed into other forms of thinking. If you're not a part of my culture, you're eligible to be mistreated. If you're not a part of my immediate vicinity, you're eligible to be mistreated. If you don't speak the same language, any difference, you are eligible to be mistreated because you are an other. You're not like me, right? People call it xenophobia. You can call it prejudice, but this is a part of the human psyche. Okay, fair. Other theories suggest that people mistreat other people based on social hierarchy, that humans are hierarchical creatures, that we believe in hierarchy, we believe in structure. Many societies develop to have a ruling class, a merchant class, working class. right? You can go across the world, study different indigenous societies. You can study societies in Europe, Africa, the Middle East. The same hierarchical structure is seen. You have the ruling class, the nobles, the elites. They receive tributes, taxes from the middle class and the lower class, okay? And we use these terms in modern times: upper class, middle class, lower class. And there's even the term of no class, to be classless. So there's even a class, people can argue, underneath the lower class, meaning that you're not even a part of the group. So a person could be a part of the group, but they're just at the bottom of the group. But there's people that's not even inside the group or not a part of the group, and they're eligible to be mistreated, right? And then that's where you could get slaves. You can get a whole bunch of stuff going on with that once you're not a part of the group, right? Okay. Some people theorize that the reason that people mistreat other people is based on the home structure and how they grew up. So if a person experienced discrimination, abuse, mental anguish as a child, the culture that we experience from our birth up until we are young adults, even as just if you go from 0 to age 10, those years are so vital and so crucial to our mental development. So you have some people that grew up in cultures where, depending on how the hierarchy was set up, certain people are mistreated. And so when they grow up and they become adults, that's the type of society that they are accustomed to. And it's easy for us to look at other people's way of life and say, hey, that doesn't make much sense to me. Or it's easy for us to look at stories from the past and say, why did they believe that? That doesn't even make sense. But it's difficult for us to look at ourselves and analyze ourselves, our own behavior, and say, why do we believe this? Why do we behave this way? You know, it's easy to analyze others. It's difficult to analyze ourselves because we are the ones experiencing it. It's hard to look at ourselves and understand why we do things because, in a way, we are blinded. We're blind to being able to see ourselves. Others can see us, right? And so that's where the awareness comes in at. So some people say that your birth, your household has a huge impact, the culture, not just your household, but your immediate family, your community, your environment. That's what I'm pointing to. Has such a huge impact on how you view the world. So they have some people, like I say, they point to that and say your mental development, your psychological development as a child has huge ramifications to how you view the world as an adult. And then once you put thousands and thousands and millions of people into that same construct, now that's what culture is. You have a large enough base to where this behavior is normalized across a vast group of people, right? Some people point to birth order, that depending on the birth order, going back to hierarchy, the birth order that you were born into in your family has huge ramifications to how you were treated, how you perceive the world. You have, like the oldest child, you have the middle child, you have the youngest child. People had huge families. You even have some situations with polygamous families or polyamorous families, or people who was married, got divorced, got remarried, had a first set of kids, second set of kids. All of these household hierarchies and the formation of families has huge ramifications to how we view the world, how we view ourselves, how we view others, right? You have people that use terms like legitimate child, illegitimate child. And some people would say that an illegitimate child is illegitimate if one of their parents had an affair. But so the way that we phrase this, the way that we see the world has huge ramifications for how people treat others later down the line, right? Okay. Some people point to region, right? Historically, the people who end up colonizing the world, the Northern Europeans, they live further north. So they developed a way of thinking that the further north you are, the lighter your skin is. The further south you are, the closer to the equator you are, the darker your skin is. So the further north you are is better. You're closer to God. The lower north you are, the lower south you are, the farther away you are from God. And this is very true. If you look at the way a lot of cities are planned, you have a north side, a south side. You have people in many countries, not just where I'm from, but in many countries, usually the southern part of the country is closer to a body of water. But the people that live away from the body of water, that live further north, they could think that they're better than the people, you know what I'm saying? The people from the coast. So it's very interesting how we view things. So let's talk about literature for a second, and I'm going to bring up a few examples to kind of explain or try to explain the question why people mistreat one another. Okay, psychologist Abraham Maslow talked about the hierarchy of needs. So the hierarchy of needs, you have, your primal needs, then you have your self-esteem needs, employment, you have your upper needs, and then you have self-actualization at the top of the pyramid, right? So level 1, your most basic needs is food, shelter, water, clothing, sex, sleep. Those are your things that on a primal level that motivates everyone. Now, the next couple levels starts to go into employment. Employment, being able to get resources. Once you're able to get resources, then that goes into housing. That goes into friendships. Then the next level, you start to get into being able to share things and explore interpersonal relationships. So if people don't have their most basic needs met, they can't even begin to have relationships with other people or healthy relationships with other people. Would you agree with that? So now we're going to point to what some theories suggest is the scarcity mindset. This has been popularized in the media today. People talking about don't have a scarcity mindset. A lot of motivational speakers, a lot of psychologists say don't have a scarcity mindset. Well, the question would be, why does a scarcity mindset exist? Why would one have a scarcity mindset or a mindset of scarcity? Well, because we live in a world that's divided between those who have and those that have not. Those with resources and those that do not have resources, right? In order to have rich people, wealthy people, you would have to have poor people, right? In order for one person to buy something, someone else would have to have it, right? So the whole society is really set up on scarcity. It's a principle in capitalism that says that in order for something to be of abundance, it has to be scarce. So that's why scarcity exists and why people have a scarcity mentality. Of the dominant economic system that exists is based on the fact that for something to be valuable, scarcity has to exist. So for example, for housing to be valuable, that everyone can't have a house. In order for certain medications to be valuable, everyone can't have access to the medication, right? In order for something to be valuable, other people should not have access to it. That's a layman's definition, but that's the reality that how most people view what is valuable, something that's rare, something that everybody doesn't have, right? But what if everything was in abundance and there was enough resources for everyone to go around? Would that really make something less valuable? If there's enough food for everyone to eat, would it really make food less valuable? No, food is still valuable. It's just that people would be satisfied, right? And so I think that people are mistreated because of that also. I think that that plays a part, because if you can't get your most basic needs met, then you're going to become more primal in the way that you behave, because you're constantly trying to make sure there's enough water, there's enough food, there's enough resources, I have enough clothes, I'm safe when I go to sleep at night, I'm able to protect my partner. I'm not stressed about is the bill or the bill's going to be paid. I'm not stressed about what the next year is going to be like, what tomorrow is going to be like. I could plan for the future. I have stability, right? Some would argue that people are mistreated because in this current economic system, people are kept at the basic level. You're kept in a situation where you're constantly trying to get your most basic needs met. There's entire cities that don't have clean water. There's entire nations right now, countries that don't have enough food, enough water, enough resources. Countries that's getting their resources extracted and sent to rich countries that don't naturally have those resources, right? This is either true or it's false, but I will point to why are people mistreated. That's what I'm trying to get into. So, some people say that people are mistreated based on race. That once the idea of race came into play, that became eligible for people to be mistreated. People like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, that was her theory, that people are not mistreated because of economics, people are not mistreated because of religion, people are not mistreated because of country or origin, people are mistreated on the basis of race, and racism is the dominant social, political reality on the planet Earth. That the earth has been divided between those who are white and those who are non-white. And she would argue that that's either true or it's false. Okay? So that means that if we go by her theory, if I'm the same religion as someone who classifies themselves as white, we speak the same language, same country of origins, the only real difference is the color of our skin, and they get more privileges in the society than I do, then that would make sense to me. And I think that a lot of people, especially in the past, but even now, feel that same way. There's people of every religion, from the same country, speak the same language, but one group is mistreated based on the color of their skin. They're not able to get access to what? Housing, water, certain education, certain jobs, loans. They are basically prisoners in the society, or meaning they are forced to be in a lower class based on a racial classification, right? Okay, I could dig that. I could understand that. Perhaps that makes a lot of sense. But the other theories make sense too. Let's talk about some literature. So in the Bible, chapter 4 of Genesis, we see Cain and Abel, right? Cain slays his brother Abel out of jealousy. Right, you know the story. They made an offering sacrifice to God, and when God was pleased with Abel's sacrifice more so than Cain's. So one day they were working in the field. Cain slayed his brother Abel. So in the very beginning of the Bible, we see family rivalry, sibling rivalry. One brother slays the other brother out of jealousy. Okay. And then when asked about it, he dismissed it like it was unimportant. Like he didn't feel like what he did was wrong. He told God, like, basically, am I my brother's keeper, And in the Spanish, it was like, is estoy like guarda de my hermano. Like, am I like the guardian of my brother? Like, And he knew that he had slain his brother. Okay. Chapter 37 of Genesis. Joseph is sold into slavery by whom? By his brothers. They actually wanted to unalive him, and Reuben was like, no, we can't unalive Joseph. That's still our brother. And out of jealousy, they sold him into slavery. They told their father, because he was their father's favorite, they told their father that he died hunting. So we can see that the sibling situation, even if you go from a literature perspective, is very big. Sibling rivalries, brothers mistreating brothers, family dynamics, that plays a huge part into how people view the world and how people obtain resources within the social structure. And I would also like to state that the world isn't so black or white, right? There is a gray area. And the gray area is that sometimes as humans, we do bad things for good reasons. For example, there was a story that I read where an old man and his wife was living together. His wife had cancer, and their insurance that they had was terminated. And as a result of their insurance being terminated, he could no longer afford to pay the medication for his wife. So he concocted a plan to rob a local pharmacy to obtain enough medications for his lover, for his wife that he loved. But he knew that he would be breaking the law, and if caught, the consequences would be that he would be severely punished and he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. But he also looked at it and said that his wife didn't have much long to live, and he did not want her to die a painful death. So he was willing to risk his freedom in order to produce justice for the woman that he loved. Now, in a society with abundance, he wouldn't have to do that because there would be enough medication for his wife. There would be a system put in place to where his insurance wouldn't be terminated, right? Okay, so he robs the store. He gets the medication. He brings it home to his wife, and temporarily everything is fine. Later, he's subdued. He's caught, punished, and persecuted for the crime of robbing a pharmacy. And the judge is put in a situation where he realizes, like, wow, this old man who was otherwise a law-abiding citizen did something that was against the law. And the law says that we should punish him. But what he did was admirable to some degree because he did it for a reason that many people can relate to. He did it because he was trying to produce justice for someone that he cared about, for someone that he loved. So, to answer the question, why people mistreat other people, we may never know. They had a battle. And in the battle, it seemed like the Christians was going to lose. And it said that the cross was used to inspire them to win the battle. And it was almost like mysticism. It gave them power. And it's a phrase in Latin that basically means, in this sign you will conquer. And Christianity is then used to become a conquering religion, a religion where it's going to become the political unifier. Now, why is this such a big deal?